Hey, I'm Lance of 20-Sided Knight.
And I'm Evan.
And today we're going over how does power armor work in Starfinder. Before we go into that, I want to say thanks so much to Inquisitor Nocturne for suggesting this idea, and also congratulations to Breb Danello and Erica Robinson. The two of you are the winners of our giveaway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how time works.
Yeah, it's time just things. Anyway, send us a message to 20sidedknight@gmail.com so that we can get the ball rolling on sending you out those things that you won. Power armor starts on page 203 of the Starfinder core rulebook, with additional entries on page 74 of the armory. There's a lot of different things that contribute to power armor, such as your class, different feats to choose, and armor upgrades and other goodies are also good ways to make yourself an Iron Man or whatever you want to be. Fucking
Master Chief.
You stupid piece of...
So, like power armor says in the name, it is powered, so therefore it does have to have batteries. That's one thing to really keep in mind. It's really important. And of course, with batteries, you got to recharge them like a good old smartphone or whatever you got. And to do that, there's a couple ways you can recharge it. When you buy your power armor, it's going to come with a full battery because they're nice like that. And you can recharge it at a public charging station. It's kind of like those quick charge stations you see at the airport. It's going to cost half the cost of the battery, but it's going to recharge at 1 unit per round, which is pretty good because it's like 1% per every 6 seconds. That's pretty fast charger.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like, say if you buy a Tesla, if you're one of those people that are rich enough to buy a Tesla, it's sort of like it comes with a free charge, and then you can also charge it anywhere you can plug it in at. Like, say if you have one of those charger stations at work, or you go to a dealership, something like that, but they charge you some money. Think of power armor sort of like a vehicle almost, if you want to get a really good idea to wrap your head around it.
Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, like you could charge it at home. If you are charging it in something like a ship, or I don't know, let's say you're one of the rare adventurers who has a house.
Oh, with the backstory and everybody in your family didn't die of your enemy that's conveniently going to be put in place later.
Yeah, if you're one of those guys, it does recharge a little bit slower because it's not as fancy as the public charging station. It's not going to charge you anything more unless your DM wants to really be one of those guys and micromanage. You're like, well, actually, because you charge your power armor, your power bill is going to go up by this much each month.
Just plug it into a Cresty during your shit, you're fine.
Yeah, but it's going to charge at 1 round. It's going to recharge at 1 unit per minute, which it's a little longer, but still pretty fast.
Yeah, it's pretty
especially because you're basically recharging a walking tank.
Getting into or out of power armor is a full action unless you have something like an exit pod or some other feat or ability that lets you get out of it. Then typically with an exit pod, I believe it's a move action to do, and then you can have the rest of your turn.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're playing Fallout 4, God forbid Fallout 76, it does take a little bit to sort of and then get in or sort of jump out.
Yeah, so if you're lucky and Al Mende is on your side or Amayo Bemde is on your side, you would be able to hurry up and get into your power armor before combat starts. So it sure may be a waste of charges to have to walk around in it, but you don't want to be caught with your pants down or your robotic pants down.
Yeah, because aren't there penalties if your power armor is open? You're gonna get some. You're gonna get some penalties like your case is not gonna be as good, and it's
your butt's exposed. And there's a way to hack power armor to open it. Since you are mentioning opening power armor, the DC for this is 15 plus twice the armor's level. So it can be, and that's a computer's check. So that can be difficult to do, but you are really weakening somebody's defenses if you're telling, say, your exocortex, or you're just remote hacking somebody's armor off of them so that you can expose their bottom, or if you want that armor.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of if you're fighting someone just sort of pulling their pants down, they're like, ooh.
Otherwise, power armor, it is locked with a magnetic lock, and this incredibly tough hide would typically keep a would-be thief at bay.
Just like any other armor, power armor does require proficiency to use. Think of Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas where you actually had to learn how to do power armor instead of just sort of anyone can waddle into it and become just a hulking mass of steel and iron. So a couple of ways you can get proficiency with using power armor is if you take the armor storm fighting style from Soldier, or if just by leveling up and you get your various feats or whatnot, you meet those certain requirements, you can take power armor proficiency as well. However, if you are going to use power armor without having proficiency within it, you are going to get a lot of drawbacks. For example, you're going to get a -4 to both your KAC and your EAC. You're also going to constantly have the flat-footed condition, and you're always going to be off target, which sucks because it's hard to hit anything. Even if it is a mounted weapon and you got a little robot computer working it, it's still not going to work because you just don't know how to use it.
Yeah, if you are a soldier and you do take the Armored Storm comp fighting style, it's called Enhanced Tank at 5th level. Something that you get automatically if you are going to be a soldier, and the feats that you can get would start around 5th level as well. It's a really good idea to pick if you are going to be the big bulwark on the front lines, or you're a mystic and you don't want to get clobbered, being the wizard. How everybody always goes after the wizard, which you should.
One other thing to keep in mind while you are wearing power armor is you can wear some armor underneath it. However, you can't wear heavy armor just because it's too bulky and you're not going to fit. That's just how it works. If you do wear light armor underneath it, a couple of things. You're going to take the better of the EAC or KAC from either your light or your power armor, but most of the time it is going to be your power armor that's going to be the better KAC, sometimes EAC, but that's neither here nor there.
Unless you're wearing something like an environmental suit underneath it and your power armor is basically like a goblin junk suit armor, then it might be a trade-off, but you're going to get the best rolls with that.
Mm-hmm. But also, speaking of that, for things like your armor penalty, you are going to take the worst check for that, which again, most likely going to be your power armor.
Because it's so big and bulky. To visualize how you're going to wear light armor underneath your power armor but not heavy armor, think of a knight in shining armor or knight in denton. Think of a knight in their armor with a gambeson underneath. You're not going to be able to wear a suit of plate armor above a suit of plate armor, but you're probably going to be able to wear like a gambeson, some padded leather, things like that. Chainmail, which would be lighter than the plate armor, below that suits of heavy bulk. Think of it like that.
Speaking of pluses and minuses to power armor, just because of how big and bulky it is, you are going to get certain deficiencies to your strength checks and your dexterity checks if you're trying to, lift something or dodge out of the way of like a big boulder. Most of the time, your strength bonuses that you're going to get from power armor way outstrip the detriments you're going to get from it, but it's just something to keep in mind.
And power armor does use its own strength modifier as well as speed bonuses as well. This can be due to different servos and boosters that are inside, or thrusters, or hydraulic systems. There's a bunch of different systems, and you're probably not going to be using your own strength to lift up the heavy weight of power armor, and then also your melee weapon. That's one of the main draws to power armor. So it may not be very useful to high strength characters, but more dexterous characters, more range-based fighters would probably find some use in power armor. Definitely mystics or technomancers, anybody who wants to hide beneath a huge metal shell. Melee fighters and combatants are probably going to find power armor to be a little bit of a detriment once their strength does exceed, say, 18 or 20, once power armor's strength stat starts to begin. But you are going to find that gap to help you out until higher levels if you are a melee fighter. Another thing I was thinking of just during our ramblings here was probably goblins would maybe have the best of power armor because they are little dexterous little critters, but at the same time not very strong. So maybe like, oh hey, it's just a little goblin, I'm going to push him over and then skin him and then collect all of his children and raise them as my own. But he's like, wait a second there, and he puts on power armor and boom, he's ready for combat.
Yeah, and like you're saying, if you're stronger than the power armor, maybe you don't need to be wearing power armor, and it can give also your soldiers who maybe they're a dex fighter,
like a range fighter, anybody that's really into having an assault rifle.
Yeah, it could give them a chance to sort of get up in melee combat. Also, a really good thing about power armor is it does give you an unarmored attack. Basically, it's going to be like a big power glove because it's a giant piece of metal with robots behind it.
Going back to the Armor Storm Soldier, if you're that, any melee attacks that you make with power armor, it does count as a power glove. It does count as a power glove, and that the level and the damage that this does scales with the type of power armor that you have. That's the first level ability that the Armor Storm Power Armor Soldier gets.
Yeah, so if you're gonna punch someone, you have that fighting style, and you got a big old power armor fist, it's just going to increase that. It's going to be really good for just bam. And going back to what you're saying earlier with, like even like a little creature like a goblin or possibly like a gnome or a hobbit even, them getting power armor, it's going to make them even bigger. And some power armor, it's real big, so you are going to be counted as a large creature. You're going to have a melee attack of more than 5 feet. It depends on how big the power armor is, though.
And talking about a little bit back to capacity earlier, whether you're using the Fallout example with fusion cores or power cells, or you're going to the Iron Man's arc reactor, it does cost to use power armor. More powerful power armor does use more of its capacity per minute, like the usage is rounded up. So if you're going to use power armor for 1 minute and 30 seconds, it would burn through 2 uses of power armor per minute. When you enter power armor, this is known through like a little heads-up display, like that gauge you got there if you're in first-person mode.
And yeah, like you were saying before, some power armor is more eco-friendly than others. For example, the Jarl Slayer armor, its usage is calculated in minutes, where things like the battle harness, it's calculated in hours. So, for example, if you're using a battle harness, you're going to be able to be in it for about 20 hours or most of a day, but in Jarl Slayer armor, you got about an hour or so before it goes dead, so one thing to keep in mind.
And what happens when you run out of power in power armor?
Oh, it's bad.
Tell me about it.
So, first of all, once you're in power armor and it's unpowered, you're not going to be able to move, you're not going to be able to take actions, any sort of onboard weapons you have, even if it, going back to like War Machine's little turret gun he has, even if it does have a little battery or whatever in it, it's not going to work.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're just going to have a bad time. The only thing you can do in power armor when it is out is you can sort of eject yourself, which is, I guess they have a sort of like a safety switch, sort of opens the panel like a mechanical thing, just so it's not like if you find a suit of power armor and it's like, oh boy, what's in it? You have your computer guy hack it open and just a skeleton falls out.
Oh no.
It's like, oh, what happened? It's like, oh, he ran out of gas and he suffocated and died in his power armor.
Oh, what a way to go.
Yeah, that's full of shit and starving to death. It's like, oh man, what's going to kill me? Is it going to be the starvation, dehydration, or drowning in my own feces?
It's drowning in your own feces. Every time, drowning in your own feces. That's what killed Master Chief.
So with all these detriments that you would get from having unpowered power armor, it is really important, just for balance purposes, to keep an eye on how much battery your power armor has. So if you're a player and you're using power armor, make sure you are keeping track of that. Maybe just write something on your sheet where every time your DM says, okay, so you do this for an hour, or you wait around for an hour, you just make sure you're saying, hey, so if we're just waiting around, I'm going to get on my power armor. Or if you're traveling, maybe don't try to walk there. You might want to invest in something like, I don't know, a car or some sort of wagon, or maybe like a bunch of dogs that can pull the power armor on the ground while you're traveling. Or
maybe have your big strength boy pull the power armor for you if they're constantly flaunting, I have a 20 strength and your power armor is 20, like, blah, blah, blah. He's gonna lash it to them.
I don't know, I mean, it has a bulk of 40, so...
Lash it to them?
Yeah, just lash them and then just, like, alright, fighter, you did this, now you're stuck here forever. Welcome to hell.
Yeah, they're training, just like how in Goku wears his gi, or like how in Superman wears that heavy cape that he has. Back to your War Machine example, there are a lot of things you can put on power armor, such as different weapons, since it will have multiple weapon slots usually, a lot more than heavy armor would, like Predator-style turrets, or wrist-mounted lasers, or nipple cannons, things like that you can put on there. There's also different armor upgrades that will only fit power armor, like the auto loader, or things that are more universal, such as the haste circuit or teleportation unit. And when wearing power armor, something really nice is that you can use both the power armor upgrades that are attached to it, as well as the upgrades that are on your light armor, if they don't extend outside of the power armor's shell. Like if you have a force field that could help you out there, or any rebreathers that could fit into light armor, you can still use that while wearing power armor. So that will be super helpful to both slather on a lot more weapons and then also a lot more upgrades. Say if you want more force fields or a bunch of other cool stuff just on there, power armor can be a great help with that too.
Yeah, especially because if you're at the sort of tier of play where you can financially support a suit of power armor and all the upkeep, you can probably keep a few spare upgrades around. So let's say for once you're going to have to be kind of stealthy, and it's like, well, Tank Jones over here in his power armor, he's not being stealthy, so maybe you can put like a stealth upgrade on there. Or, hey, so we need to fly, so you can put a jetpack on it or something, and you can change that out depending on the situation.
Power armor can get pretty expensive, and there's a few different ways to get it. One can always be to buy it or make it if you want to work well with your engineer or mechanic of the group. Another way to get power armor is if you do find a goblin that you've manifested your destiny on. And if you're the right size, you would be able to take that delicious armor shell. Resizing power armor could take a crafting check, and power armor is typically fit for a medium or smaller humanoid. So if you're a larger creature, it would take some credits and crafting and some UBP to be able to resize it to yourself. But keep an eye out for any enemies with power armor, or if you're searching around a starship and you find the gunnery station with a lot of fancy weapons and whatnot, there could be something like a light rig in there in the engineering bay. Where would you find power armor, do you think?
It depends. There's always doing a quest for someone, or finding a guy who has power armor, waiting for him to go to sleep, just putting up and shooting him, or finding on, like you're saying, on a derelict spaceship. Maybe they died from exposure to space, and the power armor cells, they finally died out, so you have to sort of pry the skeleton out. But
GMs, that could be a fun way to add a random encounter into your game if you want to reward the group, but they're a little ways away from the main journey. There could be a ship with the distress beacon going out, or maybe the enemy that has been sort of keeping up pace with level with their group. They finally got power armor, and that could be a big capstone reward for slaying this hated foe. Well, now you get, say, their ship, or a nice suit of power armor, or what have you. That's a really great way to reward your players. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else about power armor that you want to throw in?
No, I mean, it's really good. I like it. There's a few drawbacks just because of the cost and the upkeep, but besides that, it's really cool. It'd be really fun to play a character with some power armor.
And so GMs, let us know in the comments down below how you would reward power armor to your group, or players, what are some interesting ways that you have come across and been able to keep your power armor in your games. Let us know down in the comments below, and remember to subscribe and drop this comment and share this video to be entered into our monthly giveaways. Again, thanks for watching 20-Sided Knight, and if this video gets over 10,000 hits, we'll skin Evan. We'll skin off his little Evan hands.
Yes.
Thanks for watching 20-Sided Knight, and bye for now.